Make sure you stay out of the tardigrade field. They're cute, but they'll eat you. And don't get sucked into a time vortex. We won't be able to save you.
Went forward in time to view alternate futures, to see all the possible outcomes of the coming conflict.
How many did you see?
14,605,000.
How many did we win?
One.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. We have some brand new stuff from the people that made Ant-Man and the Wasp about stuff that didn't quite make it into the movie that helps with that post-credit scene and Doctor Strange's plan foreshadow time travel during Avengers 4 and the idea that Doctor Strange saw what was going to happen during Ant-Man and the Wasp with Scott Lang down in the quantum realm. There's new giveaway stuff that I'll explain at the end of the video. If you're new, be sure to subscribe to get everything so you don't miss any of the videos. The really cool thing that we just learned is that during the early pre-production phase when they were beating out the story for Ant-Man and the Wasp, they were trying to think of things for her to do with Scott Lang like they did at the beginning of the movie where she was practicing being a superhero. One of the things that didn't quite make it into the movie but they intended to do was teach her how to ride ants and built her own tiny little kid Ant-Man costume. So at one point, there was like an 11, 12-year-old Cassie Lang being full-blown stature in an Ant-Man costume with Pym particles flying at tiny size. We all heard Kevin Feige talk about the Young Avengers movie that they're planning on doing in the future and how we have crazy time travel alternate universe theories going on in Avengers 4. There was the casting notice for an older version of Cassie Lang that would have been, say, 16, 17, implying a bit of a time jump during Avengers 4 at some point. And then Janet Van Dyne, at the very end in that post-credit scene, says, "Oh, and by the way, watch out for time vortices. They're all over the place." You know what that means is they wouldn't have included that line of dialogue if it wasn't going to be critical to the plot. Otherwise, they would have stopped her short at that joke about him being eaten by tardigrades. Just watch out for them, they're dangerous. So if you ever wondered about movies like this, they don't throw out lines of technical jargon like that in a serious way without it actually meaning something to the plot or future plots the way these movies are tied together. In most of the post-credit scenes foreshadow what's happening in future movies. This is obviously foreshadowing Avengers 4 because of the snap moment at the end. Now that we've seen both of these movies too, we can also say that Doctor Strange, because time travel was such a big concept that they introduced with the way that Thanos used the gauntlet to reverse the damage to Vision so that he could take the mind gem, Doctor Strange's 1 in 14 million plan that would allow them to ultimately defeat Thanos playing the long snap game. This is a long game, remember. He knew that they would all have to die for this to happen, but that also means that he saw the plot of Avengers 4 and what Tony would end up doing, why Tony was so important. That's why he didn't let him die. That's what that whole scene about them arguing on the Black Order ship was about. I will not hesitate to let you and the kid die if it comes down to you or the stone.
Doctor, do you concur? All right, Stark. We go to him. But you have to understand, if it comes to saving you or the kid or the time stone, I will not hesitate to let either of you die. I can't, because the universe depends on it.
So he was ready to let Iron Man die until he saw that 1 in 14 million plan that Iron Man was critical for. So he knew that he needed to survive, and he very calmly and quickly gave up the time stone. Like Iron Man didn't know what was going on because he didn't explain what the plan was that he foresaw. Just that Doctor Strange knew what was going on and knew that he didn't need to put up a fight at that point. Like, this is all part of the plan, so just give it up. Just make it look like we're bowing in submission so it looks like Thanos is winning. And because Thanos was in such a hurry to assemble all the gems and form the gauntlet, he didn't bother to use the time stone the same way that Doctor Strange did. Because if he had taken a couple minutes, he could have actually used the time to see into his own future and see what was going to happen during these future movies. The reason why I think that they would want to include a future version of Cassie Lang and show stature future Avengers or young Avengers, however you want to think about them, because she'd still be 16 years old, same age as Spider-Man during Spider-Man Homecoming, is that they want to give you a little tease of things that could potentially come in the future, because Kevin Feige did say that they legit talked about doing a Young Avengers movie at some point, And they want to give you different versions of the heroes, just so that you know that they're going to be cycling the roster a little bit in the future. So they help get you used to the idea, but also pay off some of these things they've been setting up. The idea that Cassie wants to be a hero just like her dad, the same way that a young version of Spider-Man here in Iron Man 2 was inspired by Iron Man during the events of that film and eventually wanted to become one of the Avengers until he got the spider bite and learned that that might actually be possible at some point. So the story of Avengers 4 has to let the original Avengers sort of ride off into the sunset, semi-retire so that they can come back and cameo every once in a while, but make room for new heroes, but also introduce you to really crazy concepts like time travel in the multiverse so that they can do even crazier stories, and it makes it easier to incorporate things like mutants in the Fantastic Four and all these Fox characters without having to completely retcon everything within the universe. So hopefully that explains what's going on with Cassie Lang with this new concept art. A lot of the time travel truthers have also been pointing to the older looking version of Tony Stark. Why is his hair all white looking here and it's much browner here? I know everybody's been talking about that scene with him in Wakanda in Shuri's lab. I'll do a separate video about that because that gets into some of the new pairings in Avengers 4. So like you have your teams during Infinity War, it's going to be the same thing during Avengers 4. They're going to have some really interesting new pairings like Iron Man and Shuri in the film, the two supposedly smartest people on the planet trying to figure this problem out. How do they save the universe? So even if Scott does go into the future and sees a future version of his daughter as a teenager, a full-blown stature young Avenger, I don't think it's going to be a longer scene than what we saw when Iron Man went to the Sanctum. Feels like a longer scene than it actually is before they spill into that big Black Order fight. So you do have to remember that even though they have all these crazy things they're going to introduce, the movie is going to move pretty quickly. The Russos wouldn't confirm how much of it they've edited right now. They only said that it's very unfinished, like it's not a complete film, meaning that they haven't finished their rough cut yet, and there's still scenes from the reshoots that they have to add to that. So it's a long ways away from it having any kind of assembly cut or them being able to put together a legit trailer, which is why I don't think that we're going to see any footage from it till much, much later this year.
Like the story that we are telling with each character is really compelling and rich. So yeah, we do have to find that balance as we step through the script with Marcus and Feely.
There were early drafts of the script that were insane. I mean, I probably had 100 speaking parts. Different approaches to style in terms of execution. One even had Thanos narrating most of the movie.
So I don't think that we're going to see any kind of teaser for that till much, much later this year. We'll learn the title before we get an actual teaser. Like, they'll just tell you what the title is, we'll all freak out, then a little while after that, we'll get some footage. But like I said, there's a new round of that Infinity War Blu-ray giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a Marvel-related comment on the video. Click here for brand new Venom footage, and click here to learn what's going on with Thor 4 and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.